What makes a work of fiction truly captivating? For some, it might be the plain entertainment, for others, it might be the intricate themes. But more often than not, it's the characters. We're drawn into these stories by their experiences, their journey, their triumphs and defeats. How else can we be invested in the narrative surrounding them? That's the power of narrative empathy. Narrative empathy is a process of emotional response and perspective taking that let us simulate or imaginatively experience what we perceive as a character's mental state and mental activity, giving us an understanding of what the character's experience must be like. Sometimes, this process is powerful enough to make us evaluate our understanding of morality. When we're made to take the perspective of morally complex characters, stories can challenge our moral judgment of them. And no work of fiction does this better than The Last of Us. The Last of Us tells the story of Joel, a smuggler who is tasked by a group known as the Fireflies with smuggling a teenage girl, Ellie, across a post-apocalyptic United States, ravaged by a fungal infection that has turned much of humanity into zombies. Ellie's immunity to the infection makes her the key to the Fireflies finding a vaccine and saving mankind. The Last of Us uses its immersive storytelling to make us truly understand the perspective of its main protagonist and shape our moral judgment of him. And it does this in a twofold way, through the game's incredible world building and its compelling characterization. As we follow Joel and Ellie in their journey across the American wasteland, we get an in-depth look at how The Last of Us as a visual medium manages to paint a vivid image of what a dying world looks like. And it's pretty damn terrible. Abandoned cities and homes, scarcity of critical resources, and monsters lurking around every corner all contribute to a haunting atmosphere of nihilism and hopelessness. While exploring this post-apocalyptic world, we encounter the different factions of humanity's survivors that shape this desolate landscape. FEDRA, the Federal Disaster Response Agency, establishes quarantine zones to protect the remaining population from the dangers of the outside world. But their rule is brutal, enforcing order with an iron fist and quashing any dissent with ruthless efficiency. Then there are the Hunters, scavenging and killing in the abandoned cities, taking what they need to survive by any means necessary. Cannibals, driven to desperation by the food shortages and harsh winters, prey on unsuspecting victims to feed their people. The further Joel and Ellie travel, the more we see, hear, and ultimately feel the despair and terror present in every corner of the world. We begin to experience narrative transportation, where we become absorbed into the narrative world alongside the characters that inhabit it. When we are transported into a new world, we stretch our ability to take perspective. It's not just one character with a different experience than us, but an entire world where institutions, culture, and global perspective are all different. And when we stretch our perspective to encompass this world in decay, we see that The Last of Us is posing a very simple question. What does it take to survive? The answer is violence. From the violence of Fedra to maintain law and order, to the violence of cannibals to avoid starvation, every faction of humanity is united through that one common thread: the need for abject cruelty and violence. Joel, our protagonist, is no different. Through the game, Joel shows that time and time again he is capable of an almost unparalleled ruthlessness and brutality.
The girl. Is she alive?
What girl? I don't know no girl.
Fuck! Focus right here, right here. I'll pop your goddamn knee off.
When we focus purely on Joel's actions, his cruelty might make us uncomfortable. It might even make it hard for us to connect to his character, or understand his point of view. But when we're made to stretch our perspective and place his actions within the larger context of the world he inhabits, it makes it easier for us to morally justify Joel's violence. Narrative transportation is engaging our cognitive empathy, compelling us to understand the mental state that drives Joel to react to the world around him in the way that he does. Whether it's Fedra, or hunters, or cannibals, Joel and Ellie are constantly facing enemies that are also merciless and violent, enemies who have no other interest but their own survival. In such a dog-eat-dog world, the only way Joel can guarantee the safety and survival of both himself and the helpless teenage girl he's responsible for is to respond with violence himself. When we are made to place ourselves in his shoes and in his world this way, we are given reason to rationalize the torture and murder of other human beings, something that would otherwise be considered morally unacceptable. Through the world building, The Last of Us builds a premise for us to morally justify Joel through the cognitive element of narrative empathy. But it also elevates that premise by allowing us to connect with Joel emotionally. We are first introduced to Joel through the lens of tragedy. On the day of the fungal outbreak 2 decades prior to the beginning of the game, Joel fights to rescue his only daughter from the chaos that begins to take over the world. But unfortunately, things do not work out.
Somebody, we've just been through hell. Okay, we just need... Shit. Please don't. Oh, no. Sarah. Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me. I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah.
This is the pivotal moment that defines Joel's entire character, a heart-wrenching tragedy that would continue to haunt him 20 years later. A traumatic event that transforms Joel from a kind and loving father into a cold, disconnected, and nihilistic shell of a human being. Someone who has lost one of the few remaining connections he has to his own humanity. But things change when Joel meets Ellie.
You know, I've never been this close to the outside. Look how dark it is. Can't be any worse out there. Can it?
Initially, Joel's interest in smuggling her is purely a matter of self-interest, just a simple business transaction. But as Joel and Ellie are forced to rely on each other to stay alive, as they begin to trust and understand each other, the emotional barrier that Joel has put up for 2 decades begins to crumble, and he begins to rediscover what it's like to love and care about someone again. This relationship between Joel and Ellie is the heart of the story and the reason we become so deeply invested in their journey. But why? What does The Last of Us do in particular for us to care more about their survival over anyone else's? The answer is identification. Where narrative transportation is being absorbed into the narrative world, identification is being absorbed into the characters. Identification is the process where we vicariously take the place of a fictional character and react to his experiences as if they were happening to us. Our constant proximity to Joel and Ellie give us an intimate look at the breadth and depth of their emotional experiences. The Last of Us provides rich dialogue, realistic emotional expression, and powerful chemistry to make these fictional characters feel real, to make us sensitive to their sorrow, their joy, and their pain.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
This cinematic narrative structure engages our sense of affective empathy, where we become deeply and intimately involved in the emotional experiences ourselves. Joel's desire to protect someone he loves, to overcome nihilism and find meaning through human connection, these are feelings we can feel so viscerally that any ordinary person can identify with, even when his violence and cruelty is not.
It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
Joel.
That's what makes it that much easier to morally justify the lengths Joel will go to in order to protect Ellie. Not just a cognitive understanding that there is no other choice, but rather having felt Joel's emotional attachment to Ellie for ourselves, a feeling that if we were in Joel's position, we might do the same. Having survived everything that was thrown at them, Joel and Ellie make it to a Firefly hospital on the other side of the country. However, it's here that the Fireflies make a devastating reveal.
Just let me see her, please.
You can't. She's being prepped for surgery.
The hell do you mean, surgery?
The doctors tell me the cordyceps, the growth inside her, has somehow mutated. It's why she's immune. Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine. A vaccine.
But it grows all over the brain.
It does.
To create a vaccine for the fungus, Ellie would have to die. For the Fireflies, this is morally justified. They also believe that survival necessitates violence. But they're different from the other factions we've encountered throughout the game. They're not just committing violence in self-interest, but for the survival of all mankind. Having been transported into the world of The Last of Us, having stretched our perspective to encompass this world, we understand the weight of this decision. If the infection is cured, mankind is no longer under threat of being killed or turned into zombies, and humanity might restore civilization. There would be no Fedra, no hunters, no cannibals. It would no longer be a world in decay. The right choice here seems almost unambiguous. One life doesn't stack up against the lives of all mankind. If Joel were to do the right thing, he'd walk away. He would let the Fireflies perform their surgery. And yet...
What the fuck are you doing? Keep walking. I said keep walking. Where's the operating room? I ain't got time for this. Where? Top floor, the far end.
Joel massacres the Fireflies to save Ellie's life. This isn't any different from the violence Joel has committed throughout the game up until this point, except now it's not just a matter of survival or necessity. Joel is actively choosing to deprive humanity of their last hope to protect the one person most important to him. It is undeniably the most selfish act a person could do. It would make Joel a complete monster. And yet, Joel is still a beloved character, someone whose actions fans of the game have strongly defended despite the fact that it goes against the greater good. And this is testament to just how deeply we grow to identify with Joel. When Joel dooms humanity for Ellie, we don't see a monster, but a desperate man trying to avoid the trauma of losing another daughter. The version of him we have become so emotionally intertwined with over the course of this journey. Had we followed the perspective of the Fireflies, had we seen their traumas and tragedies instead, we might more easily be able to empathize with them, more easily able to condemn Joel as a monster. But we don't. Instead, the Fireflies become nothing more to us than the threat they present to someone Joel cares about. Could any one of us sacrifice a loved one for the greater good? Could we give up one of our few remaining human connections in a world suffering from the absence of it? In many ways, The Last of Us is holding a mirror up to us. Joel, whether he is a monster or not, is someone that we can see ourselves in. But what does that tell us about ourselves? Is our ability to empathize with Joel really a good thing? Especially when it means justifying actions that threaten the greater good? Can we really say that our empathy is a good judgment of right and wrong? Maybe, to be absolutely moral requires suppressing your empathy for the sake of doing what's right, for the greater good. But to do so would be to give up the part of ourselves that make us who we are. The part of us that makes us human.
Wait! Let me go. Please.
You just come after her.